Hey everyone, welcome back to Raising the Nuts. I'm back with another Play Every Hand Challenge video, this time from the Horseshoe Casino in Baltimore. The rules of the Play Every Hand Challenge, if you haven't seen these videos before, are that I must play every hand dealt in unless there's a 3-bet or an all-in before it gets to me. In this challenge so far, I've played 12 sessions, and coming into today's session, I'm up $1,339. The goal of the challenge is to win $2,000 to donate to charity. If you'd like to watch the previous Play Every Hand videos, check out the playlist here on the top right. Today we're playing 1-3-0 limit, 8-handed with a $300 max buy-in. I ended up having some really big swings and playing some fun hands with some colorful characters, so let's get right into it. Speaking of colorful characters, let me give you the rundown of the lineup today. In seat 1, we have Alligator Blood. This was a very pleasant woman, super nice lady, who kept getting down to $40 or $50 and then winning a bunch of hands so she didn't have to reload. In seat 2, we have Methodical. This guy was my nemesis throughout the session. We kept playing big pots with one another. He moved very slowly and deliberately, but not in that GTO robot type of way, more so in the way where he just didn't seem to know what was going on around him. In seat 3, we have Solid Guy. This is your typical winning poker player who was just not going to play a lot of hands. In seat 4, we have the original poker star. Why did I call him the original poker star? Well, he had one of the original poker stars hats on, and he looked and acted like someone from 2005 poker. In seat 5, we have the GTO chart. When I first sat down, this guy was amazing. He was an older guy on my right-hand side. He had his phone open with a spreadsheet that said GTO opening ranges. He was great. We'll get to him more later. In seat 6 is me, playing every hand, and in this video, I'm raising pretty much every hand. In seat 7 is the flip phone. This is an older guy who was rocking the old school flip phone. And in seat 8, we have the Cherry Chiller. This woman was great too. She was max relaxing with her foot up on another chair spread out and drinking a drink that has like 15 cherries in it. She also appeared to have about $16 in front of her when we sat down. All right, let's go. Remember, I'll be showing you every single hand played during this session. Kicking things off here, the original poker star raises to $10. I call with Queen 5 offsuit, and the Cherry Chiller calls as well. Flop comes King 8-6, all diamonds, so that's a big miss for us. The original poker star bets $15, and we both fold. I limp in with Queen 3 offsuit from early position. My strategy early on in these sessions is to try to figure out what's going on at the table by limping in on a lot of spots, minimizing my losses, and then just seeing what happens, basically. Methodical ends up raising to $17, and I just have an easy fold here. I just lose the $3. I'm under the gun this hand and have another trash hand, 6 deuce offsuit, limp in. This one goes 6 ways to a flop. Flop is 10-9-4 with 2 hearts, so nothing for me there, and I'm certainly not going to try to stab at it. The action checks around. The turns is 6, so I turn a pair, but there's a bet and a call, so I just fold my hand. I'm in the big blind with King 10 offsuit. Solid Guy raises to $10. There's 2 calls before it gets to me. I decided to just call. It's Solid Guy raising. I don't know anything about him, so I just call. Cherry Chiller calls behind. We're going to take this flop 5 ways. Flop is ace-8 deuce. That's going to be a good flop for any Solid Guy. So we check to him, he bets, and we all fold. Looking down at a very ugly and depressing 8 deuce offsuit, and I'm thinking about how I'm going to have to put money in the pot with this terrible hand. But fortunately, there's a raise from Methodical and a re-raise from the original poker star before it gets me. So this is one of the scenarios where I can actually fold my hand pre-flop. I'm on the button with Queen 8 offsuit, and the original poker star opens to $13 because of course he'd open to some weird amount like $13. He's the original poker star. I call, and the Cherry Chiller calls from the big blind. The flop is Queen Jack 4 Rainbow. I flop top pair. It checks to the original poker star who bets $26. Yeah, let's just bet an amount that's going to make the most work as possible for the dealer. You're not playing online, bro. It's not 2005. Let's go. I call. The Cherry Chiller folds. Let's hang out here and wait while the dealer has to make change for the bet size. Okay, the turn's a king, not a card that I want to see, should be really good for his hand. He bets $50, an actual human amount, because if he bet $52 or $53 or something like that, I was probably going to flip the table. But given he bet $50, I'm just going to fold and give him the pot. It's very early on in the session, but here are some of my first impressions of the table. It seems like a lot of the pre-flop aggression is going to come from my right and not from my left at all. But I think it's actually not going to happen at all. I think they've just had good hands so far, and it's not going to be a really aggressive table by any means. I think a lot of the players on my left are going to be pretty passive, and I'm going to be able to run the table over pretty well. That being said, there's one limper, and I have Queen 7 offsuit. I raise to $15, and everyone folds. Okay, a couple of things about this next hand. First off, you'll notice that I have Queen 8 offsuit, which is very relevant because I had this hand a ton of times during the session, as you'll see. The second thing you'll notice is the footage doesn't actually capture anything, and that's because for some reason during the session, a bunch of times I must have hit the button at the wrong time, so I actually didn't get the action for this hand, and few others. So I'm just going to tell you what happens, and you got to believe me. I opened to $10 in the hijack. The cherry chiller calls on the button, and alligator blood calls in a small blind. Flop is ace 8-2 with 2 diamonds. Pretty good flop for me. Checks me, I bet $15, and they both fold. As I said, I'm going to be raising most hands at this table. So next hand, I have 6-5 offsuit, make it $10. Get a call from alligator blood on the button, and methodical in the small blind. The flop comes ace, queen, jack, rainbow, which is not a flop that I want a continuation bet with my hand, so I check, and alligator blood checks back. The turn's a 7. Still not looking to put too much money in the pot here. Just see what happens. Maybe everybody checks around. I can bluff river. Everyone does check around. River's an 8. And when it checks to me, I'm going to bet really big here. I don't want to get a curious call out of a queen or something like that. And I think these people are mostly risk averse. So I put out $75. They both fold really quickly. And this is when the GTO chart to my right decides to wrap his head around the glass and tell me, good bet, good bet. And he shakes his head really vigorously. He was really a big fan of this bet. This was the first of many interactions with him. Even though I'm going to be raising a lot at this table, when I have these trash hands under the gun, I'm going to limp in with 10-5 offsuit here. We're going to go 6 ways to the flop. I have this aggressive image. Now it's time to make a big hand. And I do on the 10-5-2 rainbow flop. That's top 2 pair. I bet $10. Alligator blood calls. And when it gets to methodical, he starts to methodically count out a raise very slowly, as you'd expect him to do. And he makes it $30. He's got $112 total. I decided to just put in the 3-bet now. I make it $105. I was just essentially putting them all in. I didn't know exactly how much he had. Alligator blood folds, and now it's back to methodical, and it's time to methodically figure out what to do. Eventually, he decides to stick it in there, and we're off to see the turn and river. The turn is a 9, and the river's a deuce, which pairs the bottom card. I immediately turn my hand over. He gives it the head nod, shakes his head. He's still shaking his head. And then he flips his cards over, and he has pocket jacks. And he realized that he slow rolled me, but he didn't mean to slow roll. He just didn't realize that the bottom card had paired and he had won the hand. So it's tough when you expect you're going to win the pot, but that's going to happen sometimes. And I know it wasn't intentional, but it's on now. The original poker star was away from the table, and he comes back and posts. So I'm under the gun once again, limping with 7-4 offsuit. Cherry chiller limps behind, but then alligator blood puts in a pretty big raise, and I fold. There's 4 or 5 limpers, and when it gets to me in the big blind with ace-9 of clubs, I'm going to attack these situations aggressively at this table. I raised to $25. Only the flip phone who called under the gun makes the call. So he's probably going to have a better hand than me, but that's okay. Flop is 7-5-2 with 2 clubs, so obviously a great flop for me. He has about $150 behind. I'll be playing for it all here, but I'm going to bet $30, and he just quickly folds. I get another fortunate situation here as the cherry chiller's all in under the gun for her last $9. There's 1 call, and when it gets to me, I can just fold my 6-deuce offsuit. I raise 7-5 offsuit to $10 on the button the next hand and win the blinds. Next hand, there's a limper. I raised to $15 with ace-queen offsuit. They all fold again. The dealer's making a ton of money here, and as you can see, I'm going to be able to run this game over pretty easily. With this really trashy 10-deuce offsuit, I'm just going to limp behind after a couple of limpers, not try to raise this one up. We go 6 ways to the flop. It comes ace, king, 10. There's a bet and a call, so I fold. Looking down at a pretty hand, queen, 10 of diamonds. Definitely going to raise that one up, make it $10. Get 3 callers. Flop comes ace, jack, 3 with 2 spades. Methodical leads for $25. I'm just going to fold here. If I had a backdoor flush draw, I might call, but the other problem is that alligator blood has about $60 or $70 behind me, so I don't want to be in a spot where I call and then just throw away $25 when she shoves. Everyone folds and methodical slowly collects the pot. I raised the $10 under the gun with queen 7 offsuit. The cherry chiller shoves all in for $28. It's on alligator blood. She decides to shove all in for her $70. I'm feeling fortunate about that because now I don't have to call the shove from the cherry chiller. So I do fold my hand. Alligator blood ends up showing pocket 10s, red pocket 10s. Keep that in mind. It's pretty relevant. You'll see why. And the cherry chiller reloads. Next hand, I'm in the big blind with ace-deuce offsuit, and there are a ton of limpers. I don't always raise these spots, but I think at this table it's right to do, so I make it $30. Only alligator blood calls, who had just doubled up. I think she's going to have a pocket pair here a lot of the time. She could have a hand like ace-queen or king-queen. Anything's possible. She didn't really raise pre-flop at all, so not surprising if she limped one of those hands behind. We're going to take this flop heads up. The flop is queen, queen, 5. So I'm kind of on the fence here whether to bet or not. I don't expect her to fold a pair right away, but I do think I can apply enough pressure on future streets that she might fold it later on. So I bet $25. She quickly calls. The turn is a king. So now the plan is I'm going to check, and I expect her to check back with all those pocket pairs, and I'll be able to bluff the river. And if she does have a queen in her hand, then she'll bet. And she doesn't have a ton of left in her stack, so the plan is to check the turn and shove the river. However, after I check, she bets most of her stack, so I just go ahead and fold. She probably turns over red tens. Once again, back-to-back red pocket tens for her and back-to-back wins. Not really sure why she's betting the turn, but it wins her the pot this time. The very next hand, bunch of limpers. I just complete with king deuce offsuit. We take it 5 ways. The flop comes ace, ace, 5, and it checks to Methodical, who slices out a bet, puts like $10 in the pot, I believe it was. And everybody folds, and he shows red pocket tens. 3 hands in a row. It's crazy how that happens sometimes in poker, and it always is good for the vibe of the game. People are laughing, they're having a good time, just looking at the absurdity of this situation. 20 hands in, so it's time for the stat and stack update. Stats are, I've won 6 hands and lost 14 of the hands. Of the 6 hands I won, 3 of them I just won the blind, so I actually broke even after the dealer tip. The other 3 were pretty small pots, and I lost that one big pot that we played. I'm currently down $200. It's never a good sign when you see that I have the starting stack here in the update. The other issue with the $300 buy-in and this stack is that it's very hard for me to take footage because my phone rests up against the chips and it's constantly falling down, which leads to some issues as you'll see later on in the video. The GTO chart to my right has finally found a hand worthy of opening from the cutoff according to his chart. He opens at $15. I call with 4 deuce of clubs. That's certainly not GTO, but that's what we got to do. He certainly has a very good hand given that he hasn't played a hand yet. Flop is 7-7-3 with 2 spades. He bets $20 and I fold. I have pocket sevens this time, raised to $10. Don't mind the camera work here. This is where my chips kept trying to fall over. Methodical puts in a 3-bet to $35. And this is pretty concerning because there's little pre-flop aggression here in these games. So I just assume that he's going to have a really good hand here. Most likely aces, kings, maybe ace, king, or queen, something like that. I call obviously with pocket sevens. The flop comes ace, 4-3 rainbow. He checks. I'm going to check back. I'm done with this hand. I'm not really going to try to... Maybe I can bluff later on in this hand, but I just don't expect him to fold many hands. The turn, however, is a 7, so I make a set. He bets $25. I don't think there's any point in raising here. He either has pocket aces for a top set, which has me in bad shape, or he has a hand like kings or queens, which only have 2 outs against me. Maybe he has a hand like ace, king. We'll figure out, based on his river sizing, if I want to raise the river or not. The river's a jack, and he takes his time. A friend comes over, starts talking to him. He tells him he's got to make a decision. Takes his time, some more, and then slowly cuts out $75, which was a big bet for this game. Not many big bets going in like this. I do not like this situation at all. It feels like he maybe slow played pocket aces on the flop, but I have a set of sevens. I can beat ace king. It just doesn't really feel like that, but I don't think I can fold, so I just put the money in, and he rolls his hand over slowly and sheepishly, and I see a paint card, so I assume I won, but then I realize that he has jacks and river to set to 2-out me, and he's now officially my nemesis. I raised to $10 with queen 8 of diamonds. Would you believe it? I have queen 8 once again. Get 3 callers. Camera falls down once again for the 3rd straight hand. I really need to get some more chips or something. So luckily the flop comes 8-6-3 with 2 hearts. I bet $25 and they all fold. So hopefully I have some fortresses now that can hold up this camera. I have 5 deuce offsuit in the big blind and a multi-way limp pot. Check my option. 5 ways, I think it was. We checked down jack 9, 4, ace, jack, and obviously my hand does not win at showdown. For the 4th time in 25 hands, I look down at queen 8. Surely somebody's playing a joke on me and they just pick queen 8 as the hand of the day for today. I'm not sure what it is. But I complete from the small blind and then check fold to a bet in a multi-way limp pot on king jack 6. I almost have queen 8 again, but I think the dealer must have screwed up and gave me queen 7 instead. I limp behind after a bunch of limpers. I decide not to raise this one. The flop comes 7-4-3 rainbow, giving me top pair. They check to me, I bet $10. The cherry chiller snap calls. She only has about, looks like $63, I think, left in her stack. Methodical takes a bit and calls as well. So we're going 3 ways to the turn. The turn is an ace, and when they check to me, I really think I should just be checking back this card. I think I just wanted to win a pot. The card really can hit them a lot. They could have ace 5, ace 2, those type of hands. So I don't think I should be betting, but I do decide to bet $20. Cherry Chiller makes the call. She's probably got the best hand. Methodical thinks forever, looks at the board about 17 times, looks back at his hand, and finally tosses in the $20. The river's a 3, and the Cherry Chiller immediately shoves her last $38 in there. Methodical looks at the board 17 more times, tries to figure out what he has. I've already decided that I'm just folding. I think I never have the best hand here, and Cherry Chiller just has me beat all the time. Eventually, Methodical decides on a call, so I fold. The Cherry Chiller has 5 deuce for the straight for the wheel, and Methodical shows his hand. He had 5-3 of clubs, so he had bottom pair that rivered trips. I raised to $15 after a limp with ace 4 offsuit, get calls from Alligator Blood and Methodical. Flop comes queen jack 5 rainbow. Alligator Blood leads here. I end up folding. Her hand ends up getting shown down. She has ace queen, so that's just important to note for future hands. I once again forget to turn my camera off, which leads to me missing the action in the next hand, but I raise to $10 with ace 8 offsuit, get 3 calls, including the big blind. This is a new player to the table. The original poker star has left and gone home to his mom's basement. The new player here has yellow glasses on. He's very excitable. He seems to know a lot of people, very talkative guy. Flop comes ace 7-2 with 2 clubs. I don't have a club in my hand. They check to me. I bet $20, and only the excitable yellow glasses man calls. The turn is one of the worst cards for me. The 7 of clubs pairs the middle card, brings the flush draw. We both check. The river's a 10. He very quickly throws out $60. I fold, and he shows me king 4 of clubs for the nut flush. I raise to $10 with jack 10 offsuit, get 4 callers. Flop comes 9-5-2, 2 diamonds and a heart. Not a flop that I want a continuation bet against 4 players, so I check. Checks around to Alligator Blood, who bets, and there's a call, and when it gets back to me, I'm going to have an easy fold here. There's a dealer change, so it's time for the sanitizer, spray, delay, give ourselves a chance to take a deep breath with all these hands. Clean up, you know, all that stuff. Okay, back to raising every hand. I have king 9 offsuit, make it $10, get a bunch of callers again, so we're starting to see some multi-way pots here. Flop comes jack 8-2, 2 clubs. Again, not a spot that I want a continuation bet, and there's a bet and a call, and I fold. This is starting to feel like one of those sessions where just nothing's going to go right, but this is no limit hold'em and things can change quickly. In this hand, the cherry chiller limps under the gun, the outgoing guy with the yellow glasses limps the button, and I check with jack 9 offsuit. The flop is pretty good. It's jack 9-9. That's a full house for me. Action checks around very quickly. The turn is the 8 of spades, bringing a flush draw. I'm going to start to build a pot, so I bet $10, and both the cherry chiller and the outgoing yellow glasses guy call. The river is a great card. It's the 7 of spades. It does complete the flush and makes a straight get there. If this were a higher stakes game and people were more likely to value bet thinly, I would be checking here some of the time. I don't want people to check back with a 10 though, so I bet $40. And to my surprise, cherry chiller shoves her entire stack in there. She has about $110. The outgoing guy with the yellow glasses makes the call. This is a great sign. And now I shove, having him covered. He makes the call, and well, that escalated quickly. He has pocket 7, so he gets coolered on the river. She doesn't show her hand, and I scoop this huge pot that started out as a $9 limp pot, and now I'm up on the session. Keeping the positive momentum going, I have pocket jacks in the small blind. There's a bunch of limpers. I make it $30, and only flip phone to my left calls. He's been very tight. Flop is queen 10-4 rainbow. I check, and he checks as well. I'm feeling pretty good about my hand now. The turn is an offsuit 2. I bet $15, just trying to squeak out some value. He calls quickly. River's a queen, another great card for my hand. I don't think he'll call too big of a bet, so I bet $50. He calls pretty quickly, and my hand is good. There's a couple of limps, and it gets to me with 8 deuce of hearts. I probably should just keep my foot on the pedal here and raise, but I limp behind, and we take the flop 5 ways. The flop is 9-7-2 with 2 diamonds. It checks to me. I decide to just check back with my bottom pair. Turns a king, someone bets, and I fold. I raise to $15 with ace 3 of clubs, cherry chiller, and methodical call. Flop is 6-5-2, rainbow 1 club. They check to me, I bet $20, and they both show no resistance and fold. I raise to $10 with 8-5 offsuit, alligator blood, and methodical call. Flop is jack 10-5 with 2 spades. When they check to me, I bet $15. I think that both of them, given they've led out before, if they have top pair, they're going to lead out, it seems like. So I feel pretty comfortable making this bet here, and they both pretty quickly fold. I limp in with 7-4 offsuit and check fold on a jack 10-10 flop. I limp 4-3 offsuit and fold to a bet on 10-6 deuce. Even though I have the gut shot, the bet came from the cherry chiller, and she didn't have a lot of chips behind. I limp 9-6 offsuit under the gun and then fold to a $15 raise from the cherry chiller. I decided to check my option this time in the big blind with ace 8 offsuit and a multi-way limp pot. Flop is king 10-8. It checks around, turns a 4. I check again, there's a bet and a call, and I fold my hand. There's a raise to $10. I call from the small blind with 7-5 offsuit. We're going to take this one 5 ways. The flop is 9-6-3 rainbow, so I have a double gut shot. It checks to the cherry chiller, who bets $30 with $28 behind. Folds back to me. I obviously can just go all in here. I'm not going to fold on the turn, but I just want to call, and that way I can call her turn shove and not have to show my hand. I do have to show my hand, however, because the turn is an 8. I make a straight. I check. She shoves it in there. I obviously call. The river's a blank, and she was probably drawing dead anyway. She's had some tough luck against me so far, and she's going to reload again. 40 hands in now, so stat and stack update. I've won 12 hands, lost 28. I'm in for $725, and I have about $900 in front of me. There's one limper. I raised to $15 with ace-6 offsuit on the button. Everyone folds. Take that one down. I raised to $15 from the cutoff with 10-9 of spades. The cherry chiller calls from the small blind, and alligator blood calls from the big blind. Flop is ace-5-3, 2 spades. So flop a flush draw, obviously a great flop for me. Checks me, I bet 15. Cherry chiller calls, and alligator blood folds. Turns a 3. She checks. I decide to check back here. I don't think I'm going to have a lot of fold equity. River, however, is an ace, and when she checks, I think I should bluff this card. Hopefully get a fold out of maybe some pocket pairs, or maybe she has a flush draw that missed also. She snap calls, though. She has 3 deuce, so she has the bottom full house and gets some revenge on me. All right, I've been holding out for this moment for quite a while to get some revenge on Methodical. I limp in with 7-4 of diamonds. Gets around to him. He makes it $20. It gets back to me, and I could easily just fold this hand, but no, I'm not folding. I'm coming after him. I make the call. The flop is 10-9-3 with 2 diamonds. We're 3 ways to this flop, by the way. He bets $35. I call, and alligator blood folds. The turn's a 6, so now I pick up a double gut shot to go with my flush draw. He bets $45, and he has about $225 behind. Now, keep in mind, when I sat down, he didn't have anywhere near that much, so I decide I want to apply the most pressure as possible. Obviously, I have a good hand to do it with as well because I have some outs. And he bet, a smaller amount than you'd think he would bet with a really good hand. So I go for the maximum pressure and go all in. All in. And he methodically thinks for a very long time, as you'd expect him to do so. Ultimately, he decides on a fold, and I get my sweet revenge. Interesting spot in the next hand. I have a real hand, ace-queen offsuit, raised to $10. The cherry chiller has some more chips now. She 3-bets to $25. Methodical cold calls. I'm just going to call here. I'm not loving this situation. I think cherry chiller is going to have a really good hand. The flop is ace-8 deuce with 2 clubs. Pretty good flop for my hand. The action checks around, so now I'm feeling pretty good about the situation. I think it's pretty likely that cherry chiller has a hand like pocket kings or pocket queens, maybe pocket jacks. The turn is a 7, Methodical checks. Now I'm going to go for some value, so I bet $40. Cherry chiller calls. I still think she kind of still has that same range of hands, and Methodical folds. The river is probably the worst card for me to see. It's a king. It's basically the only card I didn't want to see. So I decided to check because I just don't think she's going to call with a worse hand, and I think it's pretty likely she has pocket king. After I check, she goes all in, and I just snap fold my hand. I just don't think I beat anything. I don't think she turns a pair into a bluff, so she gets to win that pot for me, and now she's on fire against me. I raise the $10 with pocket sixes, get 4 callers. Alligator blood's getting short. She leads out on ace-5-5, so I have a pretty easy fold. I have 8-7 offsuit in the big blind. Alligator blood, who's basically fresh off of doubling up her stack without even getting all in the last pot, raises to $15. There's a call, and I have to call. We go 4 ways to the flop, and it comes 7-5-3 rainbow. It checks to her. She bets $25. There's a new player at the table. His name is the TikTok Conversationalist. Why did I call him the TikTok Conversationalist? Well, he spent the first about 20 minutes just watching different TikToks the entire time. And then after that, he got on a phone call, and he was just having a good old conversation for about 15 minutes. So he's the TikTok Conversationalist. He calls. I decided to just fold my hand, even though I have top pair. I'm very likely behind alligator blood, and I have no idea about the TikTok Conversationalist, so I just get out of the way. I actually made a mistake. I was under the gun last hand, and now this hand I'm in the big blind with 10 deuce offsuit. There's actually a raise and a 3-bet before it gets to me again, so I get to fold again in this spot. I complete 10-6 offsuit from the small blind, and flip phone wakes up and makes it $25, so I have an easy fold when it gets back to me. I have 5-4 offsuit on the button, and once again, GTO chart finds a hand to raise with from his chart. He makes it $15 from the cutoff. This seems to happen every 22 hands or so. We take the flop heads up. It comes queen 7-4 with 2 hearts. He bets $20. I'm not loving it, but I have a pair, and I have some bluff outs probably against the type of player that he is, so I call. The turn's an ace, and he moves his entire chip stack into the pot. That's $200. I have an easy fold, obviously. I raised to $15 from the cutoff with queen 9 offsuit. Only alligator blood calls. Flop is 7-5-2, 2 hearts. She checks. I bet $20, and she folds. My apologies. There's no table footage for the next 11 hands. I was incredibly tilted when I got home, and I rewatched my footage and saw what I did here. But I do have all the hand history, so we're going to go through them real quick. I limp 7 deuce offsuit, 5-way limp pot, and I check fold to a bet on ace 6-2. I raised Jack 6 offsuit to $10, get calls from the Cherry Chiller and Alligator Blood. Flop comes Ace 8-6 with 2 clubs. I bet $15 and they both fold. There's a couple of limpers. I'm in the big blind with Queen 10 offsuit and make a raise to $20 and everyone folds. 5-way limp pot. I'm in the small blind with 10-9 offsuit. We check down a 6-3-2-5 ace board and someone's ace wins the pot. I raise the button to $10 with 6-5 offsuit. Only the Cherry Chiller defends the big blind. Flop is Jack 5-4 with 2 spades. She checks. I bet $10 again. I like this. I think this is a good bet. But she's got no chill in her. She makes it $60 and I have to fold. TikTok conversationalist limps. I make it $15 with Ace 10 offsuit. Cherry Chiller and he both call, so we're 3 ways to the flop. It comes Ace Queen Jack with 2 spades. They check to me. I bet $30. Cherry Chiller calls, and now the TikTok conversationalist shoves for 53 total. I call the 23, as does Cherry Chiller. The turn is a 2, offsuit 2. She checks. I bet $50. She quickly calls. The river's a 7. She checks. I check and show my hand. I beat her hand, but the TikTok conversationalist has Ace Jack for the win. A very sad hand happens next. So sad that I didn't even capture the cards. I raised to $15 with 8-7 of diamonds. Beautiful hand. Cherry Chiller calls. And Methodical slowly puts out a 3-bet. And he doesn't have enough chips for me behind to call, so I have to fold. I limp 10-8 offsuit under the gun. It's 6 ways. It's King Queen 8 flop. I check. There's a bet and a raise, so I fold. I'm in the big blind with Ace 6 of clubs. There's a bunch of limpers. I make it $35. There's only one caller. This is a new player to the table. Alligator Blood has racked up her win. And this new guy, he's the Canadian delivery boy. He's the Canadian delivery boy because he's wearing a sweatshirt that says Canada, and he knows the Cherry Chiller. He's brought her a pizza. So he's the pizza delivery boy who sat down in the one seat. Apparently the Cherry Chiller, I just found out as well, the reason she has her foot up is she actually broke her ankle. So she isn't just chilling, she had a broken foot and, she had to relax her foot in a certain way, I guess. Anyway, Canadian delivery boy and I take this flop heads up, which comes Ace, Ace, 5 rainbow. So I flop trips. I check it over to him. He bets $40 and I make the call. The turn's an offsuit 9. It goes check, check very quickly. The river's a deuce. I put out about a $50 and he reluctantly makes the call with pocket jacks, and my hand is obviously good against the jacks, and he's not too happy about the first hand that he's played. Next hand I have Ace 8 offsuit in a multi-way limp pot from the small blind. Flop is Ace King 3. It checks around. The turn's a 6. I bet $10 and only the Cherry Chiller makes the call. River's a king, not my favorite card, but I think I can bet small here for value and fold if I get raised. So I bet $10 again. She calls and then mucks after I show my hand. Okay, and for the last of the hands where I missed the action, I have King 8 offsuit, multi-way limp pot, comes 10-8-6 with 2 clubs. There's a bet and a call, so I just fold middle pair here. I don't like continuing with it. After a bunch of limpers, including the GTO chart to my right, I limp in with 8-3 of clubs. It gets the Canadian delivery boy in the big blind. He shoves for his stack. It's about $50 or $60, I think. GTO chart thinks for a really long time and folds. I fold my hand. GTO chart puts his head around the plexiglass like he's been doing most of the day, and he says, "You would not have folded my hand." So I said, "Oh yeah, what'd you have?" And he said, "I had pocket queens." Ooh, I don't think that's going to be a fold there on the GTO chart, but maybe he's looking at some kind of other chart that I've never seen before. I raised to $15 after a limper with Ace King offsuit, and everyone folds. I limp 4-3 offsuit early position. There's a 5-way limp pot, and I check fold to a bet on Ace King 2. We're going to wrap the session up with 2 really boring hands. I limp in with Queen 9 offsuit and fold to a raise, and limp in with 7-4 offsuit and fold to a raise, and call it a session. We have to wrap this up with a funny story before I give you the stats from the session. So right as I'm racking up my chips, the GTO chart, nice old man to my right, wraps his head around the plexiglass once again and says, "You have a really unique style." And now this is the question I get the most in comments from you guys is, does anybody ever say anything about you playing every hand? No one usually says anything. This is the first time ever. He says, "You never fold. You play every single hand. And it started out, you were losing every pot, but you just kept adding money on. And eventually you just kept bluffing and betting and raising. And eventually you got all their money and now you're out of here. So it was nice playing with you and you're a great player." I think he was just learning how to play for the first time, and not for the first time. I think he was a very beginner player. So it was pretty funny. He's the only one that was perceptive enough to realize that I was playing every single hand. And obviously I was on his direct left, so he noticed that pretty well. Okay, so final stats for the session. I played 66 hands. I won 20 of them and lost 46 of them. I was in for $725 and out for $803 for a profit of $78. It's interesting to note I actually raised pre-flop 30 times in this session. 30 out of the 66 hands I raised pre-flop. Total results for the Play Every Hand Challenge, currently 13 sessions in, and I've won $1,417. If you enjoyed this video and the content, please hit the like button. That would help me out a lot. And if you would like to watch more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button. New videos like this will come out every Thursday at 9 a.m. Additionally, if you want to support some more of my content, you can search for Raising the Nuts on any podcast platform. The podcast with me and my wife Jody comes out every Wednesday at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Additionally, we have the live stream every Thursday night, 9:30 here on the channel. We'd love if you come join us and hang out. We have a great group of people every week. Until next time, thanks so much again, and see you next week.